Welcome all. This is Jordan with another discussion for you guys. Today we are going over. Can everybody hear me? A little bit. All right, let me just show y'all who's in the class today. Cousins, family, brothers. Yep. So today we are going over discipline, culture, and justice. When does punishment become morally wrong? Intro for that, growing up in life, people have multiple different experiences, whether or not they were disciplined by parents, and stuff might depend on whether if they had mother or father in the picture. So, with this being said, I will present to you guys my 5 arguments on the topic. Argument 1, proportionality. Physical discipline is a form of punishment. All forms of punishment must be proportional to the offense. Therefore, physical discipline must be proportional to the offense. This one's actually funny. Argument 2, consent. Children cannot give informed consent. All practices involving non-consenting individuals require moral justification. Therefore, the physical discipline of children requires moral justification. And we're just going to jump straight to argument 5, looking at this last part of it. Purpose of discipline. Discipline aimed at teaching moral understanding is morally preferable to discipline aimed primarily at fear. Some physical punishment relies primarily on fear rather than teaching. Therefore, some physical punishment is morally inferior to non-violent forms of discipline. Now, for this, we can you guys can talk about which one of you guys want to go first. But just to hear your opinion, what you might think, your perspective might help.
That's a form of abuse because you especially like in practices, man, you wasting all of our weekly energy that we got stored up for this game that we got to play at the end of the week. Or if it's basketball, for 2 or 3 of these games that we got throughout the week, we wasting all this physical energy in practice. As far as instead of going over what we need to know in games, we too busy running up and down the court and stuff and it's probably people that's going to disagree because they're going to be like, nah, you got to make sure your condition is right. But you got to understand, the person talking right now grew up as a fat kid, and that is a very abusive thing to do. To make a fat kid run, it's like one of the most. That's a sick fetish that coaches have. Making fat children run is a sick fetish. Like watching a fat child run. Oh, time out. Did the Cavs play today?
Thank you, Deontay. That was a very valuable aspect. Getting to see everybody's perspective on how people's situations may be.
From my personal and people like me.
Right. All right, we're about to get Don's perspective.
I feel like in terms of physical punishment, I feel like it's a fine line. Like, I feel like adults, parents should definitely be able to discipline their kids to a certain degree. Like, you shouldn't be able to leave no scars, leave no marks, and other. Like, that's abuse at that point. But there is valuable lessons in getting punishment. Like some of my closest homeboys I done grown up with, you feel me? They ain't get the same type of punishment I have. And it's certain decisions that led me to different paths, you know what I'm saying? So you just gotta, I don't know, keep within boundaries type. That's it.
Thank you.
But more so like how me and Avery, my
Piggybacking.
sister,
Okay.
grew up. Like we used to get some type of form of punishment too when we was young until my baby sister was born for real. So
That's
I'ma
sick.
say, if hold on, are you done? I don't want to talk.
Yeah, you good, you good.
Now that I understand basically what we're trying to get out this conversation, I think that certain kids require certain discipline. So like, not all discipline work for all kids, and not all discipline is necessary for all kids. Like for instance, it could be two kids in a household. One kid requires discipline such as whoopings, spankings, timeouts, punishments as far as like, oh, you can't watch TV for a week, things like that. Others could be, okay, I'm taking your phone, or you can't go to your friend's house this weekend, or you can't go outside, because I would say gentle, and people call that like gentle parenting and things like that. Gentle parenting is only for kids that behave gently. If that makes sense. You know what I'm saying? So like, you won't gentle parent your badass son, but you might gentle parent your daughter that act up every now and then.
Yeah.
Or vice versa. The boy could be the one that's always the good one, and the girl could be the one that's always getting in trouble. So
But what if the same scenario happened for like all three, but let's say the firstborn was like getting the worst out of all three. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
it should be all equal though, if that was the case.
Well, you got
equal opportunity of rights.
It's something I had to understand too. So,
I like that.
And it's not fair.
Oh, shoot.
So let me say this off rip. It's definitely not fair. But
Wait. Evaluation of the 5 arguments. Argument 1. Punishment that exceeds the seriousness of the offense is generally considered unjust. Argument 2. Children cannot provide informed consent, and moral philosophy commonly holds that practices involves vulnerable individuals requiring stronger justification. Argument 3. Depending on the truth of the second premise, this could be sound. While not all physical discipline causes long-term harm, credible evidence and lived experiences show that some forms do. Because the premises can be true, the conclusion follows logically. Argument 4 is sound. Because cultural relativism explains why practices exist but does not prove they are morally correct. History provides many examples of culturally accepted practices that were later judged unjust. And last but not least, argument 5 is sound because discipline is meant to teach moral behavior, not simply enforce obedience through fear. If fear replaces understanding, the moral purpose of discipline is undermined, making such punishment less justified. What y'all think about my discussion?
I think I learned a lot of valuable lessons to be learned. I feel like hearing everybody's perspective really make you think about how, I don't know, just the little things like come back to me, but I just try to shut up on the Bible.
Appreciate it. All right, I'm gonna pass it to Deontay. Since you wanted to hear the entire, entire script of it all, let me know what you think. What you think?
I don't know, man, because I'm still stuck on the whole like, I don't like that physical discipline is being looked at as abuse, because I feel like it can only be abuse if you overdo it. Because if you're gonna call physical discipline abuse, you basically saying that the physically
Yeah, that's a valuable point. I mean,
If I choose to discipline my child, that should be looked at as abuse. It can only be looked at as abuse if I do some crazy ass shit. If I take my belt and I whoop my kid, that's not abuse. Now if I take my belt and I take my kid by the foot and hang his ass upside down and whoop his ass with my belt, that could be considered abuse. Because I'm doing too much now. You get what I'm saying?
yep, you're doing a whole lot, brother.
If you overdo it, it's abuse. But if you just giving them a whooping, that's not abuse.
In this perspective, we can say how you're abusing your freedom of speech for my class. Yeah, it's perfect.
Okay. But how can you abuse your freedom of speech if the amendment is freedom of speech? Therefore, you're giving me the freedom to talk as much as I want, as loud as I want, as adequate as I want, as ghetto as I want.
When somebody dies, you at a funeral, or you go speak as ghetto as you want for a moment of silence. A moment of silence for Shaniqua. I will speak however I want. You got people crying. Golly.
Yeah. Please explain to him that that's apples and oranges. That's damn
I appreciate all of you guys' point of views on this. Since you guys gave yours, I will give mine. Is physical discipline ever morally justified? Well, in my opinion, I say yes, because everybody always hears the example. But it also depends on to what degree. You know, we always have those folks who like to show blame in class over and over again. You know, they want to hear the knowledge. We're going to let them listen in, you know, free of choice. But basically, Cousin Jack, what I have to say is physical discipline ever morally justified, just like growing up in the household for your culture? I say yes to a certain degree, like you guys are talking about, you know it comes with the consequences, but hopefully people just don't go over those consequences, you know. It's like, or unless you want, that's what you want to keep happening, but just don't like do it to the point of abuse, like Don mentioned. 2, does culture make it right? Like he said, I'm going to piggyback off of that as well. It goes into, is fear necessary for discipline? And the way I'm going to tie this in is, yes, fear is necessary for discipline, because in order to have some sort of discipline as those who fear God, you have to have some sort of because he should be the only thing that you fear in this world, in my opinion. Does culture make it right? Culture goes into that. It's all tied into it because, people have stuff in their families or just in life in general, generational curses. So if you're not going to obey what's going on in your culture or whatever you want to succeed in life for your child or whatever it is you may be doing, you're not going to succeed or succeed in the way that would make you thrive. But everything happens for a reason, and everything is tied into one another. But discipline to the point of abuse is tragic because you have better scenarios. Like, say you got somebody who's a gamer, you shouldn't just whoop them, that would be more physical. Just take the game away from them. So I bet they won't act up again. A little simple stuff. But we're going to go back into the discussion. Let you guys know all of the arguments. For those of you who were not here, matter of fact, Jack, would you like to give your opinion, POV of what you think about this one?
I'm confused as hell. What the hell y'all doing?
That's a no.
My cousin right here is a light skin.
All right, just listen in. You can
I'm listening. Just go ahead. I'm listening.
for sure. I appreciate it.
What y'all talking about? I'm listening.
All right. So my 5 arguments, we're gonna go in order. Deontay, you listening? All right. Argument 1, proportionality. Physical discipline is a form of punishment. All forms of punishment must be proportional to the offense. Therefore, physical discipline must be proportional to the offense. Then you got consent. Matter of fact, we're just gonna speed through it. We got consent as an argument. You have harm as an argument. Physical harm. Because long term, they say lots. People depend on psychological harm, and then that could even turn into some trauma. Depending on how bad that could be. Cultural relativism. Does the culture accept it? The community accept it, and the purpose of discipline. And you could also have some nonviolent ways of discipline. Jack, because if you could, if you speaking to somebody, could you mute yourself, please?
Oh, you a teacher to it?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
I'm already on that nigga shit list.
All right, guys. Evaluation of.
Who is 865?
That's my bro Deontay. Deontay meet my cousin Jack. Cousin Jack meet Deontay.
What's up? What's good?
All right. So basically, with the evaluation of my 5 arguments, because with this, learning about philosophy, and going into discussions the way that they should be, or in learning, just different perspectives, you can add in your own source. With the evaluation of these 5 arguments, argument 1, I don't need. Okie dokie. 1, is physical discipline ever morally justified? 2, does culture make it right? 3, is fear necessary for discipline?
When he finished that, can you read the other two? Because you said you had 5.
Oh, y'all want to hear the full 5?
Yeah, after Aubrey answers.
All right, bet. I got you.
I thought he did.
You did.
I didn't know what you was doing. Okay.
I'm Don about to answer.
Read the questions again.
It's no, not you. Y'all be quiet. Is physical discipline ever morally justified? Does culture make it right? Is fear necessary for discipline?
I feel like to answer your first question, is fear ever morally justified?
Is physical discipline ever morally justified?
Yeah. Physical discipline ever justified? I feel like in certain scenarios, like if you finna put yourself in like harm's way, and I'm telling you, you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
that shit. Oh. But that just don't really make sense.
Yeah.
But
everything comes with consequences, and you provoking those consequences.
right. And then your second question was,
does culture make it right?
I don't really think the culture has anything to do with it. I feel like anybody of any race, ethnicity, belief, religion is subject to discipline in any form. You know what I'm saying? Whether it be physical, mental, spiritual. Discipline is a part of life, and you just don't have to, you know what I'm saying, deal with it. But as far as physical go, like I said, within boundaries. And then what's your third one?
Is fear necessary for discipline?
I feel like this one kind of ties back into the second one, because fear is kind of necessary within discipline, because you need to have the fear to not do whatever you just did again. It shouldn't be fear of the consequences that or you're gonna face from whoever's gonna discipline you, but you also do need to have the fear to not do that again. You feel me? So that's what I think.
Okie dokie, thank you. All right, and we back, guys. Deontay gave his full-fledged, perspective. That's valuable for us, and we really appreciate that, brother. Thank you. Now, moving on, we got Auburn. So the questions again are here. 1, is physical discipline ever morally justified? 2, does culture make it right? And lastly, 3, is fear necessary for discipline?
Alright. Let me do the respect part. To get your respect is to earn it, basically. That's what everybody say. But let's say like, your football coach about to you trying to get respect for your football coach, right?
Yeah.
But to do that, you gotta follow his routine. Look through the playbook, show it to every practice, whatnot, but at the same time, you really don't get like, even if you still do like all the playbook, like do all the playbook and still show up to practice and show up for every workout and tryouts and stuff, that coach still look at you some type of way to not give you that respect. Because you're not that certain type of athlete that you're looking for still. But I think respect is just not just given, it's more so like others outside of sports or anything to just respect you for just being you. But fear is just, I would say fear is just a word, but at the same time, people can fear, like parents, for example, or showing your grades to your mom, something like that. But at the same time, you just gotta fight through that fear and just suck it up because that's part of life. And culture, right? That's the third one.
This is the second one. Does culture make it right?
You said what?
Does culture make it right?
Nah. I think culture just.
See, guys, he wants to be a part of the class discussion too.
I think culture
it's too late.
Some type of form. Like, I don't know. Everybody got their own ways.
Yeah, everybody has their own culture.
Yeah. But, I don't know, like, yeah. I don't know about that third one, though, for real. But the other two, yeah, I could,
You're going to add them. Yeah, now he want to be a part of the discussion. We can have everybody in here. Yeah, it is, but it can be real quick summarized for him. You know how we have a lot of people come to class late. This is classes and sessions, and
You got Professor Bennett.
Yeah, Professor Bennett in the house.
But yeah, the third one,
My turn.
Hold on, guys. Part 2 of the discussion. Action.
Is it a fear? Is fear necessary in punishment? Not necessarily fear, but respect. People get fear mixed up with respect. Fear is, oh my God, I'm scared. Don't bring me around this person. Respect is, I'm scared to do the wrong thing around this person. I think. Now that ain't the definition of respect. I feel like that, but that's what respect says in a kid. So, as a kid, if you're scared to do the wrong thing around somebody, you respect them enough not to. But what was the second one? Because I answered the first one and the third one.
Does culture make it right? For the culture.
Culture does because we black, does that make it right?
Yeah.
No. I think because we're human, that make it right. Not because we black. I think all cultures do it. Especially these white kids, man. If white people started beating the shit out their kids like black people do, man, it'll be a better fucking world. We live in.
Well there, bud. Well there, bud. We got Mr. Potty Mouth over here.
Hey, that's hilarious.
It'll make sense.
I mean, hey.
But we got some of them do that though. I'll say about 15%
Yeah, you heard what Cat.
Let me take it back 10%.
I was gonna say, I don't think 15.
So y'all heard what Cat Williams said? They be putting the little collars on they children.
Nah, that's just weird.
Is that real though?
That's just weird though.
Deontay, is that real, Mr. Comedian?
What?
When Cat Williams was like, white people put collars around their children's necks like they pets.
Nah, I ain't seen that, but I ain't gonna lie, I did see a white family at the mall one time. She had her two little twins on them goddamn strings. They were like backpacks, but she was holding them like a fucking leash.
Or
I was like, bro, I said that's crazy. I said, black, you don't got to do that with black kids.
How old is the kid?
Probably about 8, maybe.
Oh yeah, nah.
They was probably like 8, yeah.
Nah, that ain't cool. That's weird.
okay.
I done seen so many things happen in the white culture that I find insane. Like, okay, so I was just at an Ohio State watch party. Not when they played Michigan. I was at an Ohio State watch party, but it was at white people's house, and they had their kids walking around, and it was cold as I don't know what outside. Their kids was walking around barefooted, going in and out the house and stuff. That's something black parents don't do. And then one of them kept coming in the house and like snitching on the other little boy that was outside, causing all kind of chaos. And all they kept doing was dealing with the little boy instead of A, putting him in timeout, B, whooping his ass so he don't do nothing else, or even C, tell the little boy to stop fucking snitching all the goddamn time.
All right.